Welcome to MassageTherapyRadio.com. I'm Eric Brown, and my guest today is Barry Jenings from Jenings Seminar Group. Good to have you here, Barry.
Thanks, Eric.
So you are an expert in myofascial release. So I hear.
Apparently so.
Now, there's a lot of ideas in terms of what myofascial release is. Can you tell us or tell our listeners what myofascial release is?
There's two styles of MFR, and that's short-term version of myofascial release. It differs from Swedish work in that we're not using any oil, and we're actually directing our technique towards the connective tissue, which is the tissue that basically gives our posture its form. It's deeper work. It dates back to the osteopaths, so it's been around for about 100 years. It's not a new technique, but it has been refined into a softer technique, and that's what's really happening now in the market today for that.
And you're mentioning there's two basic kinds of myofascial release?
Two styles.
Both
of them developed by the osteopaths. One is a direct style, where you find the adhesion or the restriction in the tissue, and you glide through that restriction, or you simply engage that restriction and then ask the client to move, which stretches out the adhesion. Or there's the indirect style, whereas you find that same adhesion, and with a gentle palpation, spread your hands out until we get a release of that structure or softening. They're both effective techniques. They both have their purpose. I happen to do the direct work more often than the indirect work, just because I like it better, that's all.
And what exactly is a release?
Well, I mean, the whole word release is probably a misnomer. What we're really finding is that the tissue is softening. In a technical perspective, it's actually hydrating. So we're actually getting more water, because the body is 80% water, as we know, getting more water to hydrate this tight tissue, which is basically the muscle tissue. And once we get that, that's when we get an increase in mobility and a decrease in pain. So that's the basics of what myofascial release attempts to do.
And when would it be indicated? When should myofascial release techniques be used on a client?
That's a good question. It's a little bit of a tough question in such that I use myofascial release on any condition now, whereas I used to, as I was trained as a massage therapist, I would use more Swedish work. Now I've switched over the 15 years into using myofascial release on most conditions. However, I would not use myofascial release on, say, an acute condition or inflammatory condition, which might actually be a contraindication. So you got to be cautious on what you're working on, but it is an effective technique in regards to releasing the posture, changing the posture, getting you to sit up straight. It's the best technique that there is, and I'm deeply in love with the work. The work dates back to Ida Rolf, who was a spectacular teacher, and the work has evolved into a softer style of work now.
Yeah, so you bring up the name Ida Rolf, so Rolfing, structural integration. These are essentially myofascial release techniques, is that correct?
That's correct. Rolfing is also a trademark owned by the Rolf Institute, so I do structural integration.
And with the Rolfers and the structural integration people, they do a sequence of sessions. Do you have to do it in a sequence? Can it be used like localized as part of a standard treatment? What's the best way to use
in
these
my
techniques?
Training company, we do both styles of programs. We have a basic program where it's simply releasing the shoulder. Someone comes in with rotator cuff injury, we release the shoulder three-dimensionally. So the biceps, the pecs, teres, those type of structures. The 10-sessional format, or 10-session recipe, is based on releasing each part of the body in sequence, and it's based on 10 one-hour sessions. So it's a bit of both. You can certainly do it localized, or you can take somebody through if they have poor posture, and you're not getting a change in, say, the shoulder. That's when it would be indicative that you'd want to do, say, structural integration.
So you can use a more comprehensive, integrated approach.
It's definitely more thorough. There's no doubt about that.
Now, there's a question that just came to my mind and left. Now, in massage therapy, typically as it's taught in Canada and the States, we use Swedish massage, and it focuses on the muscle. So therapists typically don't have a good understanding of fascia or fascial anatomy. I find. Do you offer? Tell me about the training you offer.
And it's true. I mean, in massage therapy schools, we are taught that the biceps runs from. I'm not really good at that in anatomy anymore, but the biceps is basically from here to here. In the fascia world, we believe that there is no such thing as muscle, which is a bit of a misnomer. But in a sense, when you take a muscle down to blasphemy for sure, for sure. When you take the muscle down to its smallest structure, though, it's fascia. So those that are doing fascia work believe that, well, the biceps really doesn't run just from here to here. This is simply a tube of fascia within fascia within fascia. And so what we have to do then is release layer by layer by layer. And that's why those who are doing structural integration or MFR get so much success. And it's a beautiful body of work. But that's not saying that it's better than Swedish work or Traeger work or Feldenkrais or cranial. It's just another tool, really. And I really want that to come across. Applications. Absolutely.
So really, this is actually quite complex, and it's not something that can therapists learn something like in an evening workshop or day-long workshop, or do they need more extensive training?
They can easily learn how to do myofascial release, just based on the fact that I've been teaching it for 15 years. And it's similar to a massage stroke, except that we're slowing down, we're not using any oil, and we're moving in a certain direction. So they can pick it up within 1 to 2 days. The structural integrational work it takes longer, because we're looking at a concept of why is this shoulder higher? Is this shoulder really higher, or is the QL actually contracted, pulling the rib cage down? And so we go through this posture analysis where we try to figure out piece by piece what's happening in a series of 10 sessions.
Yeah, and they're very complex relationships, so it takes a while to find all those clues. If people want more information on your workshops, I understand you have a book and DVDs. Is that correct?
I have a book. I have two DVDs, both on the cervical and the lumbar region. Contacting me is easy. If you simply go to www.jennings, that's with one N, JENINGS.com. Connection there.
Great. Well, thank you very much for dropping by today. Very much appreciated, educating us all about myofascial release.
Yes, and congratulations on the new program. I think it's going to be a marvelous thing for massage therapists, and it's going to help educate massage therapists, and I think it's going to go global. So thanks very much for having me on your show.
Well, thanks. And from massagetherapyradio.com, thank you very much.